Earlier in the month we talked about the different types of saw frames that you can get, and some ways that I use to sort of help with dexterity to make them easier to hold. But you can also get different types of bench peg. So I just wanted to talk to you about bench pegs. Bench pegs really quickly. So your standard bench peg would look something like this. Normally when you buy them they come completely solid, so you have to cut out your own recess. Now some people like to have really large gaps in between, or really wide pegs. Some people like to have very, very skinny sections cut out. It's personal preference, but I always think the thinner the gap, the better, really, because then you have more surface support underneath your metal. If you've got a really wide gap cut out of your bench peg, then it's quite difficult to support your metal when you're cutting because there's a lot of air underneath it. The other thing is you can keep adapting them, so you can sort of file little recesses in, which just makes it easier to support your work sometimes. Or if you were cutting out something very delicate and fiddly, you could do it right on the end of there rather than supporting your work in the middle of the peg. Or you can drill holes to help you file things flat by poking bits of wire up through there. So in theory you can make your own bench peg from any old bit of wood, just chop it down. But like we said earlier on in the project, I really like these ones, the bench peg and vice combination, because you end up with your steel block that you can hammer on, your bench peg that you can cut on, and it's also a clamp for you to clamp it onto the table. So they're really good and very good value for money. This little thing is a ring vice, so it just means that you can pop things, whoops, like rings on there, and it will help support them when you're doing fiddly filing, or if you need to cut through something, or if you have a section of wire, you can lay your wire in there, which will help support it as you cut it. It will also help you cut it nice and straight. So these again are very cheap, they're worth having, but this is the most important thing, just having something to support and cut your work on. So next up we have bench pegs similar to this. These have become very popular in recent years, and I'm going to need to clamp it to the table, so I'm going to put the phone down in a minute to do that. But the point of these is you've got your V-shape for doing your general cutting on, and then you've got smaller sections where you can support smaller pieces of metal when you need to cut finer details. When I ordered this, to be fair, I was expecting it to be a lot narrower and a lot smaller. I'm quite shocked at how big it is, so that's a little bit big for my personal preference. I would prefer something a lot smaller, but I can understand why people really like it. And again, in theory you could make your own version of this if you wanted to, but like I say, instead of it having the integral clamp and having its own steel block to hammer on, you need to use a little clamp to hold it in place. The way the clamp works on this is you have to take the end of it, slot it through the hole, and then it's ready to clamp on your bench. And you can start cutting through these areas. So another one that you can get, these ones are really easily available in this country from lots of different places, if you have a look. So this is a double layered bench peg, it's clamped to the table, and what you can do is you can push down on it and it will open up the metal, slot the metal in, close it, and then if I move this around, you see this little bit of metal is now held and supported, ready for you to cut. So the plus side of this is if you struggle with dexterity with your hands, if you struggle with grip and having the strength to support stuff while you're cutting, it's holding it for you. Or if you're worried about sort of cutting your fingers and things like that, it's holding it for you. The downside is, you know, normally when we cut, I'm saying keep the saw going straight up and down in the same spot, turn your metal as you go. With this, you can't really do that. It's clamped in place, so you will need to turn the saw, and then because there's a small area to cut, eventually you'll need to open it, move your metal round, clamp it again, and do a little bit more sawing. These ones I've only found in America. They are quite useful. They just cost an absolute fortune in customs and postage and all the rest of it. So I'm going to now show you one, if I can undo it, that you can get in the UK. So the Beast, big old metal one. So this one has its own clamp. The washer falls off all the time, annoyingly. Shall I put it here? So same concept, clamp it to the table, but instead of having that little flap that you can push down on, you just rotate the handle that's on this side. You can rotate the handle up or down, that opens up this gap here. Again, you slide your metal in to where you want it, close it, and then it will grip and you're good to start cutting. But once again, very small cutting area, so you do need to keep adjusting all the time. I do get quite a few students who struggle with dexterity, so having stuff like this is really helpful. Like I say, they're not, you know, sometimes it's annoying because you've got to keep moving your work, and you know, with these ones they can slip a little bit, but if you really struggle, there's always a workaround. It's just figuring out what the best option is for you. And because, like I say, I haven't managed to find these in the UK yet, and I've been a bit short time this month, but the plan is I'm going to have a go at making my own, and I bought a load of rat traps to take apart and steal the springs from, to see if I can get one of these up and running quite cheaply. And if I can do that, obviously I'll show you the demo of how I made it, and you can have a go at home and see if it helps you with your cutting out. So thank you for following along with Make It Month 2. Again, for those of you who follow me on social media, you know there's been a lot of stuff happened and gone on this month. So unfortunately I haven't managed to post as much as I wanted to and show you as much. But with this project, each month we will be building on the skills from the month before, so there's going to be plenty of time for me to show you a few more tips and tricks. But in the meantime, have a go at home, let me know how you get on. If there's specific things that you're struggling with, let me know and we can sort of discuss those online as well. But remember, the main thing is just to relax. It's all about being relaxed, having a soft touch and fluid movement. As soon as you get rigid and frustrated, your blades are going to break, and then the more your blades break, the more frustrated and rigid you get, and it's just a horrible circle. So Zen breathing, relax, and let me know how you get on. Bye.